Welcome. My name is Will Moss. I'm the CEO of HBCU Connect. I'm going to be your moderator for this evening's event. We are super excited to host you and also to host the Financial Alliance for Racial Equity and the companies that are represented here this evening to share lots of insight and information and also introduce you to some of those team members. So super excited to have you all. Welcome, and let's go ahead and get started with our keynote speaker. So Christy Rodriguez is a senior vice president at Nationwide Retirement Institute. So Christy, if you're ready, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Will. I cannot think of a better place to be this evening than with all of you. And I just wanted to put up, a little bit of background of myself, and then definitely we'll jump right in. But as you can see, I actually come from the illustrious Hampton University. We've been having debates all afternoon around the real HU, but you know what? It's all love, just like it's all love with all the Divine Nine. I wanted to articulate in my opening that I remember being where you are. And so it was really intentional for me to put on this slide that I had various roles actually before I got into leadership and before I got into executive leadership. So I want you to know we were really intentional this evening that we're going to give you the steps to accomplish wherever your career wants to go. And ultimately, we know you all will be executives. Just a little bit of background about myself. You see, I'm also a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, the Links Incorporated, and also Jack and Jill of America, where I actually saw one of my former Jack and Jill team, Kayla, who happens to be my favorite bison ever, join this call. So excited about that. And one other point I wanted to make that is really important for me, for you all to know, because I know I'm a few generations away from you, is that I really thought that going to an HBCU changed my life. And I'm going to pose that in a moment as a little bit more of an introduction and one that I'm going to also give to the panelists. But so much so that influence had that my eldest daughter is now a sophomore at Spelman College majoring in biochem. And so again, just having that legacy of not only myself, but understanding the importance of the HBCU experience. And before we go to the next slide, so I'm giving the panelists a heads up. Their first question before we deep dive into questions is going to be, what got you from the point where our participants are to where you are today? That's going to be your first question. And I thought I would share, I had really 3 pearls of wisdom of coming into Hampton University. So again, I'm a few generations older than a few of you. What attracted me to Hampton University was this show called A Different World. But what I did not know when I stepped on the yard of Hampton University, how much my HBCU was going to prepare me for the real world. And they did that in 3 ways. The first way is preparation. And I saw that when all of you were joining on the call early. It was ingrained in us at Hampton University, and I'm sure a lot of the HBCUs here, to be early is to be on time, and to be on time is to be late. So that preparation of stay ready so you don't have to get ready. The second thing that my HBCU taught me is the power of giving back. And it was just so important for me, no matter what I did in my career, and I know a lot of us sense this from our HBCU experiences, it is not just about us. It is about the community that we continue to serve, and again, lifting as we climb. And the third one that they taught me, and you'll see this, is going to come out because I have Gen Z kids and just who I am, be my authentic self. Take up space in the room. You all have so much to offer, and your preparation and your legacy is so deep coming from our historically Black colleges, institutions. We need you in this industry, and we are going to articulate this evening why joining one of these 4 companies is going to be the best decision of your life. So with that, we can go to the next slide. So I was asked to talk a little bit about FAIR. And so all I want to give you is kind of more of a snippet. So I've been in Nationwide since 2015, but in 2018, we embarked on some research to understand what the challenges that Black financial professionals were facing when they were in the industry, but more importantly, why weren't we attracting a lot of Black graduates into the financial services industry? And what I appreciated about that study that we did over a 2-year period from 2018 to 2020 is we focused on surveying 22 historically Black college students. And what was really astonishing in the research that came out is that the professionals and the students didn't see it as a viable career and thought they were going to have challenges based on their skin color. And we said, wow, you know what? This is powerful information, but Nationwide alone cannot do this. And so we decided to spearhead a coalition. And this coalition is really, really important because not only did we bring together some phenomenal financial services firms, and this evening, along with Nationwide, we have NFP and Financial and Franklin Templeton. We said, you know what? We can't have this discussion amongst ourselves. We need to bring our historically Black colleges. And so the 6 HBCUs in the middle that you see are the ones that we started with for FAIR, but we're also extremely excited about adding more historically Black colleges to this roster. And then alongside of that, bringing along our industry partners. So again, joining forces to drive change and not just having conversation about it, but really saying, what are the ways like this evening that we're going to bring more representation into our industry and have greater impact around financial inclusion in our communities. So we could go to the next slide. So again, we all know this, when you sit in class, and I'm sure you all have heard that you can't really start a business, an idea, or a thought without having a mission and a vision. And I love the fact that all of those firms and the historically Black colleges you saw on the previous page and the industry partners got together to really get crystal clear on what is going to be our vision and our mission, not just for the next year, not just for the next 2 years, but really planning far out to drive impact in our industry, to change the trajectory of how we're seeing representation and how we're really creating financial products and solutions to serve communities that have distrust, that also feel marginalized. So we really wanted to make sure that we took a concerted effort there. And we did that in 3 ways that you see on the icon of this bottom of this screen. The first is recruit, and that is what we're doing tonight. We are putting our talk and our walk exactly where it needs to be. We are here to recruit you. So when Will said they're going through resumes and they're handing them to us, we're not going to stick them in a pile. We're going to diligently go through them and find out what is the right opportunity so we can continue the dialogue with you and hopefully bring you on as an intern or full-time employee or associate in our organization. We also said that's not enough in FAIR just to bring a crop of Black professionals in. We need to ensure that we're investing and sustaining in your future. We're creating opportunities for mentorship, further development, and what we'll talk about, I'm sure, at some point this evening, which is key, sponsorship. And then working alongside of you, we want to continue to market and promote what we're doing in FAIR. And we really look to have your voices being the forefront of that, because in order to change this industry, and as we look at trends going forward, we need to hear from you, and we need to understand what are going to be the unique circumstances or unique opportunities for individuals coming into our industry. And my last slide, and again, I encourage all of you, if you have questions, I will be around for every breakout. You can see me there, but more importantly, you can also put comments and questions on the chat. I'll look at those in a moment. I thought it was so fitting when Will started off and said, the opportunity for you. And I wanted to make sure you all saw the vast opportunities in financial services that are available to you, the full ecosystem of what's to offer. It's not this kind of stuffy insurance business where you only have to be an advisor. We need people that are going to be asset managers. We need people with accounting and finance backgrounds, legal backgrounds, marketing backgrounds. I come from a long history of marketing in financial services and in healthcare, data sciences, AI, wealth management, sales support. And I have said this in a crowd at the National Black MBA conference, there is money to be made in this industry. And so what I want all of you to think about is, what is that opportunity for you to come in? What is that opportunity for you to change the trajectory of your life and the legacies behind you, which we know is all instilled in our schools and our universities, by thinking about a place that you can uniquely show up. And this is just a splash. This is not an all-inclusive list of places where we need you in this industry, building products, building capabilities, building digital strategy and solutions. We want you here. And so with that, we're going to spend a lot of time on that this evening. But what I wanted to do is hand it over to our panelists. So we have two sets of panelists this evening, executive panelists who will go through, and we'll start with Kendra, who will first give her name, her company, and her title. And then she will also share kind of what got her here. And we'll do that for all of the executives before we move on until our young professionals. So Kendra, I'll hand it over to you. I won't interject. I'll let you keep popcorning to Lucy, Chris, and then Mike, and then we'll move to our young professional slide. But again, I'm excited. Let's get you pumped, put your information in the chat, and we are ready to go.
Well, that was a great intro. Hi, everybody. I am Kendra Myers-Williamson, and I work for a company called Franklin Templeton, and we're an investment management firm. We're based in the San Francisco Bay Area, a city called San Mateo, a city that I grew up in. And I'm just thrilled to be here. And I am just thrilled that you guys have chosen to spend the couple of hours here with us. And really, I hope, and I think everybody here hopes to give you a better understanding of our industry, and again, why we need you in it. And really the good work that I think it's not well appreciated in the industry of what we do, helping people with financial literacy, helping people reach their financial goals, which is critically important for every segment of the population, but in particular for communities of color. So I love this industry. I think we do good work, but we have a lot of work to do and having more representation. I've been at Franklin Templeton. I'm hesitant to even say, but it's 30 years. I started in 1990, so 31 years actually. But it's been a good ride. I started out in customer service. I'll back up a bit. I went to a liberal arts, all-female college in Massachusetts. I grew up in San Mateo in the Bay Area, so I came home after graduation and started working in customer service at Franklin, and I've done several roles in customer service and marketing, but for the last 20 years or so, I've been in the sales portion of our group, particularly or specifically in relationship management, which I love. So it's a client-facing role, so I get to meet with clients all over the country, and it's just a fun role. I really enjoy it, and I am happy to answer any questions that you will have either during this event or afterwards. Please feel free to reach out to me, but I'm just thrilled to be here, and thank you. And I'll turn it over to Lucy.
Thank you, Kendra. Thank you, Christy. Well, I am kind of stoked because while I did not go to an HBCU, like Kendra, I went to an all-women's college. So for any of those girls in the audience who went to an all-women's high school or all-girls high school, all-women's college, or believe in single-sex education, I'm with you there. I think it gives us a unique place to thrive, and I'm very grateful for that education. Lucy Bosworth, I am Vice President of Marketing and Practice Consulting at M Financial Group. While I have a competitor on the phone, I will say we are the leading distribution for all high net worth business executives and businesses in the life insurance and financial services space. I know, don't roll your eyes at me, Mike. I saw that. But healthy competition is good. It makes us all sharp and crisp. I love my job because I, like Kendra, get to work with my member firms. I get to work with our clients. I get to help our member firms find solutions. I love marketing and everything about it. I actually got my start. I studied really had impactful majors. I think I saw Kayla is a journalism major. I was a French and history major. And I studied my junior year abroad in Paris. And so my parents wondered what on earth I would ever do with a French and history major. But I read great books. I studied great ideas. I learned about people and culture. And I think those are the building blocks for a successful life and successful career. So that's, I got into financial services, actually because of my role in talent development. Actually, I spent many years owning a recruiting firm, and our main clients were financial services and insurance companies. And just like that slide Christy just showed, what I've always loved about this industry is the just amazing opportunities. If you're a STEM person, if you studied math, you can be an actuary, you can be in finance, you can be in data, you can be in IT. You studied French, philosophy, and history, you can be in marketing, you can be in sales. You can be in customer support. You can be in learning development, training, human resources. There's just so many amazing opportunities in the financial services industry. And I particularly love my role at M Financial because I get to be the executive sponsor and I help design the Magnet program, which is our recruitment, training, and development program for young advisors entering the business. And I will say we have a very specific objective to diversify what a financial advisor looks like. And we have a great partner in Nationwide. They sponsor and help us build this program from ground up. And we've put a lot of Christy's research to great use. So can't wait to answer your questions. And thank you, Christy, and thank you, FAIR, and thank you, HBCU Connect, for having M Financial.
So good evening and welcome all the students. It's great to have you all here. My name is Chris Graham. I am the Chief Investment Officer at Nationwide Mutual Funds. And before we really start talking about kind of how I get here, the one thing I will share is I didn't set out when I was young to become a Chief Investment Officer. But the one thing that I did is I know myself and I know my interest and I know my own passions. And the one thing, and this is probably going to be a common thing amongst folks on this line, that I am interested in is making money and how does money work. And so when I was probably very close to many of your ages, there is a magazine called Black Enterprise. And I don't know if that magazine still exists or if it's something that you guys are accustomed to seeing, but there was an annual issue and it was called the Top 25 Blacks on Wall Street. And I used to look at that magazine every single year and read the stories about the people. And I used to really get excited about it. Now, before I tell you, so this is what I was doing. I was in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma at the time. So, we'll get into kind of, how we got to where we got. But then there was also an issue that had Dr. Harvey from Hampton University on it. And I read his story. And so when I graduated from Bishop McGinnis High School in Oklahoma City, I applied to one college and one college only. And so I am a Hampton University graduate. I am also a member of GE, the power company. I am a Q from Hampton. And, the connections and things that you learn at HBCUs is extremely powerful. And so, that's how I started out my career. And, and then I went into investment banking. 20 years ago, that's what everybody wanted to do. They either want to be an investment banker, consultant. And so my path was probably a little bit more traditional because I knew that I liked to make money. And so I went down that path. But I did a couple of years in New York. I did a year in Ghana. I went to graduate school at Wharton at the University of Pennsylvania. And, after marrying a few things, I came over to Nationwide. And so, as you've heard from many of the panelists already, the great thing about financial services is there's a lot of different things that you can do. So you can be in asset management, there are operational roles, there are marketing roles. It is pretty dynamic. So I have a little bit of an entrepreneurial side about myself. And that's the one thing that you can also do with financial services. There is always room for innovation and creativity. And at Nationwide, I've been able to do that. So, I can't wait for the questions. This is a fantastic opportunity for not only for you all, but for us as well, because, we love to sow into the next generation. And I will turn it over to Mike James so that you all can hear from him.
Thanks, Chris. Oh man, going last, you're always chomping at the bit to get at it. Let me just say thank you to you, Chris, Lucy, Kendra, Christy, just everybody involved. I'm gonna talk a lot tonight, so I'm just gonna warn you right now. I'm gonna get my time in too. But I'm Mike James. I'm a graduate of American International College, which is a small school outside of Boston in the western part of the state of Mass. I'm not a part of an HBCU, but I know a lot of them and a lot of alumni, and I couldn't be prouder to be a part of this alliance, this coalition, and a part of the HBCU Connect event. I'm married to Jesse James. I got 3 children. All have gone on to higher education. There's a common thread with all 3 of my kids, though, that links back to me. Back in 1991, I was brought into this profession through a diversity internship program. And so a lot of what we're doing with you tonight is a very deliberate strategy to introduce you to insurance and financial services. That happened to me decades ago. And I think that model still holds true. And we're going to prove it by what we're going to do with you here tonight. Let me also say that the words that are going to come from all of us hopefully will reshape your thinking about entering our profession. We're all giving our time up tonight because we believe that you're worth it. And it's that simple. I also want you to know that there's a historical significance, a generational significance about what's going on. No one can mistake what happened in 2020 and what sights we all saw and what awareness came to all of us about being Black in America, being a person of color, and handling yourself in this generation. I think this program exemplifies the kind of passion and resources that are being put to work to not only talk about doing something, but actually doing it. And so tonight, I got a lot to say. I'm going to answer every question that you want to give me. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my company, and then I'm going to pass it to Christy. NFP is a global insurance brokerage and consulting business. Our largest footprint is in North America. We're also in Europe and Ireland and in the Caribbean. We have 7,000 employees worldwide. We're privately held, and we're divided into 3 global business segments. And I run one of them, which is dedicated to insurance businesses and wealth management. And again, I couldn't be prouder to be with you all tonight, and I can't wait to get at the questions. Christy?
Thank you, Mike, Kendra, Lucy, and Chris. And Mike, I promise we won't play the wrap it up box music when you're talking. We're gonna let you get it all out tonight.
I got more to give.
I know you do. I know you do. And we are excited to hear from you. So we'll start with Alicia for our young professional panel. If you'd like to start off, give a little bit about yourself, what got you here, and then you can pass it to Jason, Aaron, and then we'll conclude with Travis, and I'll start with the first question.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Christy, and thank you all for joining us tonight. I'll share a little bit about my background, where I'm from. I'm originally from Gainesville, Florida. I'm a native Floridian. And I did my high school years there. I grew up there, was very close to the University of Florida, but there truly is only so much orange and blue you can take in your life. So I made my way down to St. Petersburg and began doing school at the University of South Florida in St. Petersburg. And while I did not attend an HBCU personally, my grandfather, who was born, I'm telling his age, so I hope he doesn't mind, in the 40s, was a part of the band at FAMU. His son completed his MD at FAMU in pharmacy in the pharmaceutical department, and his daughter, so my cousin, is also now at FAMU. So the legacy is still very strong in our family. I tell the story often that I joined Franklin Templeton completely by accident. I was a marketing major in school and a minor in international business. I knew that I always had a passion for a sales career, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to sell. I knew that whatever I wanted to get behind, that it had to have some kind of passion. I wanted to believe in the purpose of it. So coming out of school, I imagined myself working at Kate Spade in New York, doing kind of advertising campaigns for their distribution. And 2 months after I graduated from USF St. Pete, I was hired by Franklin Templeton. I didn't even know that I applied there. It was through kind of like the application portal that USF has. You can kind of just send mass applications out to companies in the area. And I picked the Tampa Bay area for school because I knew that I wanted to land a job in the corporate landscape, straight out of school. And so while I was in school, I took a part-time teller position at Bank of America. Just did not see my life being, this whole thing was strategic, but I did not see my life being like the staircases being set up for me to land the role at Franklin Templeton, which required me to kind of do check processing in our customer operations department, where I worked in our transfer agency for a year. And then a year after that, I moved over into our sales desk and I got Series 7 license. And that's where I really began to learn and understand about mutual funds and ETFs. A year before then, I had no idea what a mutual fund was. And I experienced being the only Black woman on the floor and being the only Black woman on my team. So there was a tremendous effort there, but I loved the role that I was doing. And then a year went by in that role, and I started in our Futures Associate program, which is a program for recent graduates who are interested in kind of finding their footing in the industry. And so I was in that program for about a year and a half or so, and I landed in my current role as a digital strategy and fintech analyst in our digital strategy and wealth management group. That is definitely a tongue twister, but hopefully I got that all out. And basically in my role, I am a fintech analyst covering distribution for our Americas region. So fintech companies that focus on digital distribution for investment solutions that are either in Canada, the States, or in Latin America. So that's just at a very high level, kind of how I got here in my journey. And yeah, I'm super happy to be here, and I'll pass it to Jason.
Thanks, Alicia. And thank you all for being here, and thank you for letting me be part of this amazing panel. So I first learned about the financial services industry from a high school economics course. We did a 2-week lesson on financial intermediaries and the financial system, and I was completely hooked. The first subject that I really engaged with, felt connected to, and felt was tangible and relevant to myself. So when I got to college at the University of Washington, I didn't know what financial services was, but I knew I wanted to be in it. So when I got to school, I started cold calling local Seattle businesses, offering free coffee in exchange for an hour of their time to just talk with me about what it is financial services was. A lot of calls went unanswered, a lot of rejection there, but ended up getting a number of informational interviews and job shadowing opportunities, and just conversations that helped, as a number of people have said, the financial service industry is so large, and having those conversations help kind of narrow it down into the areas of interest for myself. So then it was about, again, back to cold calling, trying to get internships. And once I started landing those, it was about getting in there and volunteering to do as many projects as I possibly could with as many teams as I possibly could to not only enhance my technical abilities, but really find my niche, find my passion, whether it was in the marketing side, whether it was being out in front of clients in a sales role, whether it was back office analysis, trading and analytics, those kinds of things. And so all that kind of led me to my current role in financial as a wealth management analyst, doing outsourced investment management and helping to manage a turnkey asset management platform. With that, I'll pass on over to Aaron.
Thank you, Jason. So good evening, everyone. Definitely appreciate you all coming out tonight. We're definitely looking forward to having a great evening with you all. My name is Irvin. I am a graduate of the Hampton University class of 2021, also a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. And I work at Nationwide Financial, where I'm a financial analyst. My role getting to, my journey getting to financial services, it had always been something, finances had always been something that interests me since I was a kid, honestly. I used to take my mom's phone when I was bored back, I think it was like the iPhone 3 or something. And just instead of taking it to go play games and stuff, I would just go open the stock market app and just go look at all the stuff, because it didn't make sense to me, but it looked really interesting. So as the years have gone on, took the time to learn about stuff like that. Found my way to Nationwide actually via an internship. Also had the opportunity to intern with Huntington in 2019. I interned with Nationwide in 2020. And those two experiences really helped me get interest into the financial service industry. And so just excited to be here and looking forward to a great evening with you all. And now I'll pass it off to Travis Harris.
Hey, hope everyone's having a great evening. Thanks again for joining us. I get the pleasure of working with Mike James, and I won't talk as much as Mike will tonight, but he's a stud. So we're lucky to have him, and we're lucky and happy to be here tonight. Again, my name is Travis Harris. I have a more of an unusual path to the financial industry. I actually graduated from Middle Tennessee State in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, right outside of Nashville. Longtime girlfriend graduated from TSU, so a little bit of connection there. I have to claim it for her sake, so I don't get in trouble. But I actually started out going Middle Tennessee State, graduated in international politics. I had a minor in women's studies, and so for me, I wanted to transition into more of a legal role, figure out my way in state and local politics. And unfortunately, I did not take that path. Instead, I ended up graduating there from Middle Tennessee State and going into education. I worked at a boarding school for 12 years in Asheville, North Carolina, learned a lot, met a lot of people. I was in a totally different environment, but it gave me those skills needed to be able to be relatable and be able to navigate those paths and those directions of value of where you want to go in life. And so now I find myself in Charlotte, North Carolina, working at NFP. I specialize in employee benefits, where I had the pleasure of working with groups to establish and curate benefit package for their employees. Quick story. So during the pandemic, navigating that world of EB, employee benefits, I had the pleasure of working with a lot of minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, Black and brown-owned businesses. One thing I've learned is that a lot of businesses, brown women, don't have a lot of employees 50 plus. And so I actually pivoted and found my niche working with a lot of MBEs and WBEs in the commercial space, helping with bonding and things like that. So for me, I really enjoy helping those businesses navigate their path and their growth to becoming companies that are hopefully flourishing and doing some pretty cool things in our society. So we're pretty excited to be here. Thanks again for allowing NFP to represent. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And thank you, Alicia, Jason, Aaron, and Travis. Aaron, I don't know if your mom's going to appreciate you putting her on blast about her iPhone 3, but we'll talk about that. I'll talk about that later. Really excited. One thing before I jump in, there was a very important note in the chat. Cindy Hose indicated there will be a raffle giveaway at the end of this session of the panel conversation. You got to be in it to win it. So you got to make sure that you stay tuned and you hear your name so you can claim your prize. So with that, what I thought I would do, I would love to do some pairing of questions. And Travis, I kind of want to start with you and Mike, the duo of the one that will talk and the one who may scale back. I think that'll be a good place to start. And Mike, I'm going to ask you a slightly different question than I'm going to ask Travis. And Mike, the question I want to ask you is, how did you choose the financial service industry? Or better yet, how did the industry choose you? Did you start off in a different sector before you came in? Would love to hear a little bit about your background. And then Travis, I'm going to ask you a slightly different question.
Yeah, thank you, Christy. I'll try to live up to all the hype. So frankly, this industry chose me. And, you know, if I'm being brutally honest, you know, I grew up in the town of Roxbury, you know, 2-parent household, youngest of 5, but we, you know, we lived every day like it was our last. You know, we really took it, you know, we were present for each other, didn't have a whole lot. And Mama said, you know, you're in high school, you need to start thinking about, you know, what's next. If you're going to go to college, you're going to go because you want to go, not necessarily because we have a path to getting you there, you know. And that's when the reality of where I was and who I was really became evident. It was either get a job now and start and enter the workforce, or reach for something bigger. And so we had a family friend. It was he was actually a friend of my sister's, and he introduced me to an internship program. I had aspirations of being a lawyer. I thought that, you know, the legal field was something that fit my personality. Never at a loss for words. So I know lawyers are typically not at a loss for words. But this internship grabbed me and brought me into a large insurance company in Boston called John Hancock. And at the time, they had a very deliberate diversity internship program that was designed to attract diverse young talent from the city of Boston that was moving on to higher education, and retain them for full-time employment in the city. I thought it was a very simple but powerful mission that company offered, and they brought me in. I had an immediate mentor in the program who looked like me, and got other mentors that didn't look like me, and it was deliberate so that I could understand different perspectives early in my journey. And they showed me everything that I would allow myself to become exposed to. And I was proud of that. Much the same way we're doing tonight. Starts with very open and candid conversations about who you are and what you desire. And they try to match up my goals and objectives with what that company could provide. And from there, the rest is history, you know, from intern to executive, owner, leader, mentor, all those things that you want associated with your name if you spend the time in a profession. And so I'm really proud to be with you all because I am a product of a very deliberate pipeline that brought me into this profession. And the reason in my opening comments, I said, you know, I'm kind of practicing what I preach. My 3 children all entered internships at their respective colleges and universities. One has gone on and gotten her MBA, the other is in an MBA program, and the other is in an undergrad program. But they all got there and are all engaged in internship programs. I believe that is the gateway to understanding what it takes to be a professional, to be someone that aspires to grow and develop in a particular industry. So again, I'm thankful for being able to share that part of my story. There were lots of bumps and bruises along the way. It wasn't easy. You know, oftentimes you're in an internship program with people that look like you, but the moment you step out of the comfort of the people that look like you, you're in an environment that doesn't look like you. And you have to understand how to be your authentic self in that environment, but still recognize what it takes to be there actually. And there are rules to the game that you got to learn early. And, you know, if we have enough time, I'll get into them. That's all I'll say.
Oh, that's a pearl of wisdom drop. I know we call it code switching, different professionalism, different things, but that's a very good point. Mike, looking forward to hearing more about that in the breakout. And so I just want the executives to know, I'm going to ask you a very similar question. I'll do it again in pairs, but I wanted to make sure that we stayed with NFP and go to Travis. So Travis, one of the things I appreciate that, you know, all of you and the young professionals did is you kind of gave a background of how you got to where you are. My question is a little bit unique for you. I would love for you to share with the audience, how are you finding your footing in your current role and finding your place within financial services? Is there some, you know, unique wisdom or a piece that you want to impart? And again, I'll ask that to all of the young professionals since you were able to eloquently kind of give us your background at the very beginning.
Yeah, thank you so much. I would say Mike is right. You know, Mike and the leadership team at NFP has done a great job of fostering this idea of what we're all here doing, that we're all doing here tonight. But NFP has done a great job with seeking out people of color, women, to make sure that we fit the image that we want to reflect into our communities. And so practice what you preach, I'm kind of part of that. So for me, I started out in education as an administrator. And in my role, I had the pleasure of developing relationships on multiple levels, whether with parents, alums, students, faculty. I mean, I had a staff of 5 to 6 people. So there was these relationships that you had to maintain throughout that process and throughout that role that were amazing for me. And it allowed me to be organic. It allowed me to be myself. It allowed me to work my passion and work those things that really fit with what I wanted to do in life. And so long story short, I had a family who came to me one day and said, "Hey, Travis, we love how organic and how raw and natural you are." And I was like, "Hey, this is just who I am. This is kind of how I roll." And so they asked me to come to Charlotte and had a great conversation about the financial industry, which was a woman, Christy Byron, who came back to me and said, "Hey, listen, Travis, you have something going for yourself. And so you should look at developing those relationships and making some cash and making some money for yourself." I know we talked about generational wealth and some things that we're going to discuss tonight. I was just very fortunate to be in the right place at the right time. But more importantly, I think, and one thing I want the young folks on this call to know is that it happened for me because I was organic. I was real. I was natural. And I didn't pretend. I didn't even know I was going into this industry. It was just something that, because of the good graces of my Lord, but I was in the right place at the right time. And the education field and being able to develop those relationships has carried over to my career. Now, I actually I actually I came to NFP, I guess 4 months into the pandemic. And so my first year and a half was all virtual. But I wouldn't trade that experience for the world, because it taught me how to grind. It taught me how to get on the phone. It taught me how to cold call. I know Jason was talking about cold calling. Cold calling, I think I cut my teeth on cold calling because the last 24 months, that experience has definitely helped me today, where my pivot has been making sure that I go after Black and brown businesses to make sure that they get the top-notch quality, the first-in-class services that NFP provides. I told somebody the other day, we're probably the best insurance group that no one's ever heard of. And that's true. When you think about our capabilities, you think about our portfolio. And I'm just happy to be at a place that is moving in the direction, and it's new and it's fresh. We got some cool things coming up actually next week and then into March with some of the cities and municipalities in the Southeast that are making those initiatives, bringing those into light within their cities. And so I'm just happy to be a part of it, and very thankful for it.
I love it. Thank you, Travis. I love that you saying being organic. But one other thing you said was really powerful is the transferable skills that you took from being an educator, administrator into your role. That is profound. So those of you that are out there that are thinking about your vast degrees, you're hearing the journey in this conversation today. So,
I'll tell you what, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it was more, I was in that world where coding was important. And so predominantly white school, making that transition, it was really good.
No, awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Travis. We're going to pivot now to M. I'm going to tag team Lucy and Jason on this question. So same question, Lucy and Jason. And Lucy, we'll start with you. What drove you to the industry? Were you in other sectors before you got there? And then Jason, I'll let you follow right behind Lucy on, how are you finding your place in this industry as starting off as a young professional?
Thank you so much. It was interesting. I'm a first generation American. My dad was from Brazil. My mom's from El Salvador. My real name is Lucia. And so I didn't grow up in a professional family. I didn't grow up, I joke sometimes I didn't learn how to read till I was like second or third grade because my parents were too busy working. They weren't reading me books, so, and then I ended up a French and history major. And, unlike Mike, who was chosen, I just sort of stumbled into the career a little bit, right? And, from my educational background as well. And I started as an entrepreneur. I got recruited into a kind of an early stage recruiting firm, and I ended up an owner in the firm. And we sold it I sold when I was 30. So I grew the company from like nothing to right under 10 million. And I sold it when I was 30. And then I went to work for the acquiring company for several years. They were a woman-owned, privately held $200 million firm. And our biggest clients were Wachovia, Capital One Bank. They acquired my firm because, like I said, most of my clients were banks. So in fact, Capital One Bank bought the biggest bank at the time in New Orleans, and that's how they actually became a bank. They bought Hibernia Bank. So I spent my whole life sort of servicing the financial services industry. And then, was on the executive team of that $200 million firm. I did mergers and acquisitions. I stood up their consulting business. And by the time I left, I ran the whole Wachovia Wells Fargo account, which is about a $60 million account. And then I started servicing Chevron because I was always in the Bay Area, right? So I was always going back and forth between Market Street and where Chevron was. And then, at one point I was like, I think I want to make a career change. I want to get out of recruiting and I want to get out of this business. And Chevron said, we're going to introduce you to Accenture, and we want you to work for Accenture, but we want you to do oil and gas. And then I made a huge career pivot for 6 years in oil and gas, which was great, but it was multinational, big corporation experience. And then a few of you know, I think Mike and Christy know, Wes Thompson actually recruited me to M because part of what I was doing for Accenture is building huge talent programs and transformational talent programs for big oil and gas companies. And he wanted to stand up the magnet program. And he said, you're a woman, you're a woman of color, you're Latina. I want the magnet program. I want M Financial to really focus on diversity hiring. would you please come build this program with me for me? And I was like, I love designing and building things. So that's what I'm going to do. That's what I did for my consulting career. And so that's how I ended up at M, and specifically instead of servicing financial services, in financial services. And I've really just loved the entire journey. And I think what I would like to share is just simply, when you have an opportunity, just take it, just take it. I mean, when I started I took that first job in the recruiting firm because they offered me free parking. I was like, that is worth money. My salary was $18,000. So like when you put the free parking in there, it's like, that's like doubled my salary in New Orleans. So I took that job because of free parking, and then I ended up an owner. And then when I looked around, I had such great client relationships at Chevron. They were like, and I was like, I've never really done consulting. I've sort of done consulting, but not really. And I ended up, doing really well there. And then when Wes said, I think you could do this. And I was like, well, I know I can do it, but I want to do it. So is like when you have a good feeling about a company, or you have a good feeling about who you're talking to across the table, or the people around you, don't feel like you have to stay where you are because it's always what you've done. Just take the opportunity. And if you have a good education, like from an HBCU, you are going to be well prepared for challenges, and you're going to be well prepared for tough conversations, and you're going to be well prepared for those uncomfortable conversations. As a woman, it's hard sometimes. It's just hard. And I don't ever think it actually gets easy. Even when you're in the C-suite, which I am, it's still hard. But you'll be well prepared for it, and ask for help and, mentorship, which is what we nationwide did a lot of work with M Financial on the mentorship portion of the magnet program. And full stop, you find one or two people that can be your mentor, they'll change your life. Absolutely change your life. So take some risk, believe in yourself. Don't always feel like you have to do what your degree says you have to do, or what your mom says you have to do. And find a good mentor, and it'll be bumpy, but it'll work out. So I don't know. Did I answer your question, Christy? I kind of meandered.
No, you answered it and more. You got a lot of amens in the chat. I mean, it's so spot on. And I love that you said, taking risk, if I heard what you said. And sometimes people will see things in you that you don't see right now in yourself. So being tapped and taking the assignment, never be afraid to do that. I love it. Awesome job. Thank you so much, Lucy.
Thank you, Christy.
All right, Jason, how are you thinking from your perspective? What are some things or ways that you're trying to find your way within our industry, and wisdom that you can impart on the group?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll harken back to something Travis mentioned about grinding through kind of hard situations. Some of the best advice I ever got, which sounded simple at the time, and I kind of laughed it off, but it's ended up being so true, is if you want to stand out, you got to do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. And so that's kind of been my mantra so far through my career, is do what I say I'm going to do when I say I'm going to do it, and keep grinding through the difficult spots, which, I've had that in my whole life. My mom was an immigrant from Hong Kong who lived in Mississippi for a year before a hurricane took her house away. And so she's always had that mindset of things are going to be hard, but you got to just keep going. And I think having that kind of mindset going into into this industry, which can be pretty difficult at times, is very important and really helpful for helping kind of find your way in it.
No, thank you, Jason. What I appreciate, I heard it from Mike, Lucy shared this a little bit. Now you're sharing it. Really, where you start is not where you're ultimately going to end up. And I just love the fact, and thank you, the three of you, for your transparency and sharing that, because that is so profoundly important, because we all come from different walks and areas of life. So thank you. I'm actually going to now pivot to the nationwide duo. But this time I'm going to start with the young professional and then go to the experienced professional. So Aaron, we'll start with you. Share with us how you're navigating your way through financial services. What are some wisdom that you would impart? You actually called out that you actually worked for two fair companies as an intern, first Huntington and then Nationwide, before you assumed the role. Is there anything you want to share with the audience before we move over to Chris?
For sure. Definitely want to piggyback off something that Travis brought up, and that's being organic, being authentic. It is very much okay if you come into this industry and when you're first starting out, if you do not know a lot. I haven't been even here a year yet, so I obviously there's still I'm still asking questions about some of the basic things on my job today, trying to make sure I have all those things figured out. But you're going to find out that people are willing to help you. They want to help you. As a matter of fact, it is in their vested interest to help you. So have no fear with asking questions. To continue to do things like this. I'm learning things tonight. I'm one of the panelists. I'm learning things tonight. Never get into a space or a place where you feel like that you can't pick up more knowledge. So I mean, that's been the biggest thing for me as I've been navigating through my first year at Nationwide. And then also just making sure to reach out to people. I have a few good mentors here at Nationwide who I try to stay connected with. A couple of them are actually here on this call with me. So that's something big that I've done too. So just those quick nuggets about being very early in your financial service career.
I love that, Aaron. And you never know, your mentor sometimes can change into your sponsor. And so I love the fact that you're learning that lesson early on to value those relationships as you're doing work and investing in them. So thank you for sharing that. So Chris, you gave just a phenomenal background. I happen to know you a little bit better than some of the folks on the call, but the fact that, you lived in Africa, in the continent of Africa, you worked in IB, you went to Wharton, when you think about it, it sounds like the career has always caught you. And I think someone even put in the chat, they did a quick fact check. They did find that Black enterprise with President Harvey. So just talk to us. It sounds like maybe you did. I don't know if you ever worked in any other sectors, but what was really your path and what shows you? And actually, I might change yours slightly different. What is sustaining you in this industry?
Yeah, you know what's funny is no, I've never been in any other sector. I used to work for free when I was young, just so that I worked for a brokerage company. I told them I just come in and work for free, just so that I could put it on my resume and get the experience. One of my first Christmases as a child, the first gift I remember receiving was a bank. It was a metal blue bank with a red kind of lockbox on it. So I've always kind of had an interest in money and how it works, and not necessarily to have it, but really just to how does it work? Understanding the game, the business game. How does the economy work? And so those have always been very interesting to me. And thank you all for finding the Black Wall Street articles, because the very telling thing about that, one of the ones that you all put out there was from 2011. So remember, I was looking at these in the early 90s or late 80s. And so the interesting thing, the articles that you all put out had the 75 top Blacks on Wall Street. When I was looking at it, there were only 20 or 25. And so it really goes to show you, and what we're saying tonight about things have expanded. The playing field is more open. So take advantage of it. COVID has presented some unique opportunities that weren't here, 5 or 6 years ago. And so take advantage of those, take advantage of this sort of opportunity. But for me, this has always been my passion. The great thing about money, it really connects everything. And so, I listened to something today about NFTs because I don't really understand it, but being an investor, you want to understand NFTs, you want to understand Bitcoins. I don't know if any of you all saw how high the 10-year US interest rate went today. It went over 2%, first time since 2019. If you are passionate about connecting the dots, financial services is great for that, because you always want to understand the flow of money. And I'll give you guys a tip. Here's an interview tip in case you have an interview and someone asks you a case type of question. The one thing that I always try to understand, and that I think is so interesting, is try to understand the game and how do they make money? Like, how does it go from a revenue to the income statement? And one of the things that has helped me, because I'm so interested and passionate about it, I think I'm really good at helping people make money. And lots of times at Nationwide, different folks in different business lines, they come to me and we'll just be talking about what they're doing. And I said, you know what? I think I can help you. And so be open, whatever your job is. As a matter of fact, one of the ways that I actually got the job that I have now, it wasn't because of what I was doing on the investing side, although that was pretty good too. But there was a business line that I helped them. And it was kind of one of those, it wasn't one of those things that was in my performance plan. So it wasn't my day job, but I had fun helping a leader of a business close a really big deal. And it was because of that. It was something I'd worked on for 5-6 years as kind of a side job. And so, be open to opportunities and being able to make a change. And, Lucy, one of the things you talked about was taking a risk. Yeah, I've been listening to this podcast recently about kind of no regrets. That is my theme for 2022. No regrets. Put it on the line. You guys, I don't think, and ladies, I don't think you're married yet. You have a lot of time. You have energy. Put it on the line. No regrets. Take some action. And at this point in your lives, anything you do is great, because you can decide to keep doing it, or you can decide to do something else. And that's a big advantage that you have right now. So Christy, I will leave it at there. Hopefully I answered the question well. And
you did. I think we're getting hashtag quotes from your 2022 no regrets. And I'll ask the panelists to do this as we wrap, because we may only have time for this last question, but if we can squeeze 30 seconds out, I have one more after we go to Kendra and Alicia. But, put in your podcast, put in books for this panelist. I think that is all a great way to learn. So Kendra and Alicia, we'll wrap with both of you. So Kendra, starting with you, how did you find this industry, or how did the industry find you? And then Alicia, I'll quickly pivot. I'll just let you two transition and pivot over to what are some kind of ways that you're finding your space in your new role. I love the fact that you brought up fintech in your introduction. If we have to wrap at 7:10. So we can do this in the next 4 minutes. I do have one 30-second question I would love for all of you to answer with one statement. So Kendra, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Well, I sort of, I was a little bit of both, fell into it and I was pursuing it. I'd always had an interest in banking and finance, but at age 21, I really didn't know what that really meant, right? I graduated from a liberal arts college in Western Massachusetts. All of my networking opportunities were all on the East Coast, of course. I had no resources or networking in the Bay Area so I came home and I didn't really have a path. So Franklin Templeton was the largest company. I think at that time it was the largest employer in San Mateo. So I got a job there. I knew they were in finance, but I didn't know, truthfully, I didn't know exactly what they did. Right? So I got a job. I was in customer service, and I liked talking to clients, the investors, the end investors, about their accounts and learning about what a mutual fund is and how it works. And I did just learning a little bit about the business. And then I became a supervisor, and I realized that really isn't my path, right? I didn't, the paperwork and the administrative and that kind of thing was not me. I really like to be engaged with clients. So I moved over to marketing. I got my MBA during this time as well, at night. And then I found this role within distribution. The role has evolved over time, but you're working directly with the broker-dealer clients, and you're educating them about your products. And really, but for me, it was about being out in the industry, right? I got to go to conferences. I got to travel all over the US and meet people. And I thought, this is it. This is what I really like. And I've really been doing it with bigger clients and more responsibility ever since, and I just enjoy this role because of the engagement with the clients. So I did not know that this role existed when I started. So to others' comments, being open, because there's so much you don't even know the right questions to ask. You don't know what roles are out there. There's so many. And I didn't have a mentor. And God, if there was one thing I would leave you with is, you can get a mentor that would help you. I probably could have skipped a lot of steps if I had a mentor, right? So, but really just being flexible, because I didn't know anything about this role, but someone described it. And so I said, sure, I'll do it. And I didn't realize that that's what I would do for 20 years. So I just loved it. And being adaptable. This industry, everybody on this panel will tell you, whether you've been here for a year or 20 or 30, it changes so fast, which makes it exciting for sure. But you have to be adaptable, and you have to be persistent. It's not all easy. It's not all roses by any stretch of the imagination. There's it's life. It's not always easy, but it's very rewarding And I would recommend it to you all to take a look at it, because really, as I said before, there's good things happening in the industry. It really does help people improve their financial lives. And that's what I hold on to. And that's what I tell people. So I try to make it short and sweet.
You did just that, and it was powerful and impactful. Thank you so much, Kendra. So Alicia, just wrapping up with you, maybe in the next minute or so, you can give us your pearl of wisdom of how you're navigating within your current role.
Sure. Thanks, Christy. So I've been with Franklin Templeton. Valentine's Day will be 5 years, and there have been a number of things that I've learned that helped me navigate kind of my placement and, the role that I've landed. And I think the ultimate thing, everyone that just spoke really said, a token or a piece of the steps that I've had to take on that staircase to get to where I am today, that really spoke to me and I identify with. And I think the number one thing that I would add to that is finding my voice was one of the most incredible things, and I'm still finding it. That has helped me land where I am today. And, to everyone on this call, including our students and panelists, your voice matters. Your ideas matter. Not everyone is going to have the best idea. And you may have ideas that work in one situation and may not work in another, but don't be afraid to speak up and use your voice and to share ideas, because you never know if that may be the tipping point for the strategy and the team to head to a different direction that is really profitable and works really well for your business units. That's one thing that I would leave, in just this minute to kind of give a token or nugget back to the students is use your voice. Don't be afraid to speak up. And that's what I think has helped me get to where I am today.
And Alicia, I couldn't think of a more powerful word of wisdom to end. It is about finding your voice. You are at the table for a reason. And so I appreciate that. So I'm going to start, and each of you have exactly, okay, we got literally 30 seconds to do this. And I'm Mike James, I'm going to challenge you first. One thing that you would do differently when you're thinking about going back and talking to your younger self, one thing that you would do differently as you're searching for a career to give advice to these students. It could be one word, and literally I'm going to call on your names and you all just give one word. Mike, here's your challenge.
More questions.
Perfect. Kendra.
Get a mentor and network.
Great. Lucy. You're on mute, Lucy.
Be curious.
Love it. Travis.
Career Center. Go to the Career Center.
Yeah.
That is very tactical. I love it. That's tangible. Chris Graham.
Make yourself uncomfortable.
Wonderful. Alicia.
Never hide who you are or where you come from.
Fantastic. Jason.
Come to events like these.
I love that one. And Aaron, you have the last word.
Be a sponge, absorb as much knowledge and wisdom as you possibly can.
Fantastic.